Tonight, union protesters ambush Matthew Guy as the election race tightens. Powering to the finish, Daniel Andrews vows to protect state-owned electricity. Cars flattened and homes damaged as Melbourne battles another day of wild weather. Cold comfort for the family of a man shot by police, the coroner finding his death was preventable. Students run for their lives the moment a deadly earthquake rocks Indonesia. And controversy reigns at the World Cup as the Socceroos prepare for France.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Peter Hitchener.
Good evening. With just 4 days until the election, a new poll suggests we could be heading for a hung parliament. It has Daniel Andrews neck and neck with Matthew Guy, who was ambushed today by CFMEU members, including workers from the government's Metro Tunnel project. State political reporter Mark Santomartino.
They swarmed Birang Ma on the hunt for one man, forced inside and separated only by glass.
Hands off our jobs! Hands off our jobs!
This loud, unsanctioned protest was later backed by the CFMEU.
He's going to cut the suburban rail loop. We're looking forward to building the suburban rail loop.
Angelo de Alessandro works on Melbourne's Metro Tunnel.
So the government's paying you to be here?
Daniel Andrews is paying the builder to build the project.
We're better than this, and we're better than the intimidation and the division that Daniel Andrews has created in this state.
Ironically, Matthew Guy was announcing a plan that would create construction jobs.
Bit of an exercise kind of area as well.
Pledging millions to plan a park over train lines next to Federation Square.
It's time to turn that wasteland into parkland for all Victorians. Polls show you today it's within reach. We can be rid of this government and this Premier.
The latest Resolve political monitor published by The Age has the primary vote for Daniel Andrews and Matthew Guy deadlocked at 36%. But the Premier remains far more popular and should win on preferences on a two-party count. Mr Andrews unwilling to consider the possibility of minority government if Labor loses more than 10 seats.
No deal will be offered and no deal will be done.
People are sick and tired of the major parties taking them for granted. They want parties that can push next government.
If the poll rings true, Matthew Guy won't win over enough disgruntled Victorians.
CFMEU! USA!
But he believes the swing is on.
Even those who don't vote for me, even those guys outside, I'd still govern for them.
And Mark's in Box Hill this evening. Mark, a leaders' debate is about to start there.
With the exception of Remembrance Day, Pete, Matthew Guy and Daniel Andrews haven't agreed to be in the same room together this campaign, let alone going head-to-head in a debate. But in less than half an hour, they'll start fielding questions from a crowd of undecided voters. We know that health, cost of living and the state's debt have been hot-button topics this election, but they're always thrown a curveball or two. We'll stay across it and bring you all of the latest and the highlights in Nine's late news this evening.
OK, thank you, Mark Santomartino. Labor will make it law to have state-owned power in Victoria if it's given a third term. The Premier returned to the old SEC headquarters to reveal bold plans to change the Constitution so the industry can never be privatised again. Heidi Murphy reports.
Powering to the finish line while sticking to the chosen theme.
Bringing back the SEC, government-owned renewable energy.
Labor so sure it's on to a winner that it's now vowing to make a state electricity commission law.
We will protect the new SEC by writing into the Victorian Constitution and protecting the SEC from privatisation.
The change would require a special majority in the Parliament. 3/5 of both houses would have to agree. The Premier confident he will get it through.
We would ask that parties respect the mandate.
The coalition not convinced.
The Constitution is not the place to put a one-page thought bubble of the Premier's.
We will do something very different. We will bring back the SEC for people, not for profit.
That claim is being questioned by some, given the proposed model is 51% state-owned, 49% investors.
It's going to be a partnership with private equity, and private equity demands a return.
They'll be a minority.
Labor is banking on the future of jobs in the Latrobe Valley to be top of mind for voters this week, with the Yallourn station here to close in 6 years.
I want the Latrobe Valley to be central to our renewable energy future.
Now, Heidi, you have the latest on the police investigation into Catherine Cummings' inflammatory comments.
Yeah, that's right, Pete. Police tell us they have finished their assessment of the comments that the MP made on the steps of Flinders Street Station on Saturday. There had been a complaint received that the comments may have been designed to incite violence against the Premier. Police tell us this afternoon no offence has been committed and they will be taking the matter no further. Pete.
OK, thank you, Heidi Murphy. The SES has been inundated with calls for help after parts of Victoria were again pummeled by strong winds. Maggie Rayworth joins me from the Dandenongs. Now, Maggie, a tree came crashing down on a car at Upper Ferntree Gully.
It certainly did, Pete. I'm here in the car park of the Upper Ferntree Gully train station, and a large tree has crushed several cars here. Here, branches have been strewn across the car park. Now, I'm told at least 6 cars have been badly damaged, one completely destroyed, but thankfully nobody has been hurt. Now, right now, arborists are working to remove the branches and that large tree from the road. Now, just moments ago, I spoke to the owners of one of the cars here. He's the owner of the white Toyota Hilux, and he tells me that he was due back to his car around the same time that tree crushed it. So tonight he feels quite lucky to be alive. Now, wild weather lashed parts of the state today. At some points, wind gusts of around 110 kilometres an hour were recorded in some parts of the state. Now, that certainly kept the SES quite busy. In the 24 hours leading up to midday today, the SES received around 900 phone calls for help. Most of those were for fallen trees. So, Pete, tonight the SES will continue to work through those jobs.
Thank you, Maggie Rayworth, for the latest there. The coroner has found the death of a father of 3 gunned down by a police officer in Windsor during a routine traffic stop was preventable. His family says the officer who shot him should never have been working alone. Court reporter Eliza Rugg.
Vlado Masetic's sisters have waited almost a decade to hear what they say they've always known.
The coroner has found that Vlado's death was preventable.
In August 2013, the father of 3 was shot dead by leading senior constable Timothy Baker, who had pulled him over on Union Street in Windsor for having stolen number plates.
Put your hands behind your back.
That's not fair. That's not fair.
Look, do as you're told. I don't want to use force.
You're going to get in big trouble. You're going to lose your job.
Timothy Baker was acquitted of murder. During his trial, he claimed he shot Mr Masetic in self-defence because the driver threatened him with a knife. But the coroner found there was no evidence the 44-year-old was armed. She was also critical of Victoria Police's failure to properly monitor Timothy Baker, who had a history of mental illness and was on 6 medications at the time, including an antipsychotic. Victoria Police has since banned single officer patrols, but the coroner noted that ban should already have been in place 3 years before Vlado Masetic was killed. The recommendation was made in 2010 after Senior Constable Tony Clark was fatally shot with his own gun by a drink driver he'd pulled over at Launching Place. The force says it will review the latest recommendations, including systemic changes to make sure members are fit for duty.
So that everyone can feel safe on the streets, that their officers are up to scratch.
Eliza Rugg, 9 News.
An earthquake has struck near the Indonesian capital, Jakarta, killing at least 162 people. Australia's pledged support as search teams struggle to reach survivors trapped in the thousands of buildings that collapsed. Mark Burrows has the details.